Close your eyes, give me your hand, darling.
Do you feel my heart beating?
Do you understand?
Or is it just calling who still hasn't seen it yet?
And James wrote an essay.
Pages long, can't you tell?
With footnotes and theories.
He knows it too well. And
There you go.
welcome to Seismic Cinema. How good was that, eh?
I think I butchered it when I said I wrote an essay, but without the tune in the background, I think we did
Well,
okay, mate.
well, we don't want to get a copyright strike. So, welcome back to Seismic Cinema. This week we are going to be reviewing the remake from 2024 of Speak No Evil. And just before we get into that, just a reminder where you can find us. So we're on social media. I do keep promising I'll get back onto social media, but it's really not happened yet. So these are all the different locations: X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, etc. And you can also watch us and listen to us on YouTube and Spotify, plus also the likes of Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, and all those different areas. We're also still part of the Podpack Collective, which is a group of like-minded podcasters who like to support one another and make the podcasting scene even better than it already is. And just before we get into this one, our most recent podcast was A Cabin in the Woods, Not a Knock at the Cabin, a Demolition Man, and Nuremberg, which was our last three. We're currently on 263 subscribers, I think, at last check on YouTube. So we really want to get to 275 by middle of the year. So if we could try and get to that by the end of May, that would be fantastic. And also, if you enjoy this video, it'd be great if you could like and comment as well. Okay.
I'm thinking after our rendition there, mate, we're going to get people unsubscribing. I certainly hope not, but we won't get a job in X Factor anytime soon, I'll tell you that.
Seismic Cinema's got a bit of a history of some musical numbers over the years, so just a bit of fun. Okay, so as we mentioned, this movie came out in 2024. It is a remake of it's like a Danish and Dutch original. It's a horror and drama film, and it comes in at 1 hour and 50 minutes long. It was directed by James Watkins, no relative of Ollie, and it was written by James Watkins, but the writers of the original also get some credit here. So it's Christian Daftrup, I think, and Mads Daftrup as well. It had a £15 million budget, and it grossed 77 million there or thereabouts worldwide. Okay, so and the synopsis: a family is invited to spend a whole weekend at a remote home in the countryside, but as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. Whether or not they should have known that before they arrived is a different story. The tagline for the film was, this is what IMDb said, it said, "Hear no evil," which was a bit strange because it's close to the title, but not quite there.
Yeah, Speak No Evil, Hear No Evil. It's also a good film, mate.
I know it's. I keep thinking this film had a different title, like when I first started watching it. And the cast, obviously, we had one of our fellow Scotsmen, James McAvoy, playing Paddy. And we had Mackenzie Davis playing Louise. I'm assuming you clocked who that was?
You know what? I actually really recognised her, and I couldn't picture it.
My screen name is a hint.
Yorkie. Don't know, it's like chocolate bars.
No, it's one of the leads from San Junipero.
Oh right, aye. I wouldn't have got that, mate.
I kept thinking I recognised her, and I think that when I first watched it, I maybe had looked it up, but it's quite obvious once you know.
Aye.
So
It's
Mackenzie
it's
Davis.
something I do though. Like when I go into watch films stuff like that, I do go into can I see what else to bring, but for some reason I didn't do that for her. But aye, you've said it.
So it's Yorkie from San Junipero, the episode of Black Mirror. And then Scoot McNairy plays Ben. Alex West Leffler plays Agnes. Aisling Franciosi plays Chiara. And Dan Hugh plays Ant. So that's the main cast. So were you familiar with any of the cast out with Mackenzie Davis now, and obviously James McAvoy? Were any of those actors you'd seen before?
No, actually no. Obviously James McAvoy's obviously, a big hitter in this. But I thought I recognised the guy actually. What is his name? Ben?
Yeah, Scoot McNairy's his name.
He looked like the guy from the Cities films. I know it's not him, but he just looked like him. But I just thought I recognised him as well. But nah, that rings a bell.
I've got a fun fact for you about Scoot McNairy. Do you know the scene when Ant is talking to, I think it's to Ben, and he's like mouthing something near the start?
Aye.
He's apparently mouthing Scoot McNairy, like the guy's name. That's what he's mouthing when he says it.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite funny.
Aye.
So we'll talk about the cast kind of as we go on. We won't kind of ruin that at the very start. So, James, I think you mentioned that you've seen the original.
Aye.
You have?
Yeah.
I haven't. Unfortunately, I did think about trying to watch it before we recorded, but I wasn't able to access it. So it would be good as we go through or at the end, just to talk about your thoughts on like the comparison and similarities and differences.
I mean, there's not too much dissimilar, to be honest with you, mate. There's the ending's slightly different, and I think it's a lot more kind of darker. This one, sorry, the original was darker.
Yeah.
But there's not too much difference usually. I think in terms of, I wouldn't say how funny Patrick was, but I think how kind of endearing he was to probably the audience as well as the family. I think that was pretty much kind of laid a bit more to kind of warm to him a little bit. But the end. I'll talk about the end when it comes, obviously. But right.
Cool. Well, let's just get into it then. So it's an interesting start to the film, isn't it? You see young Ant in the back of the car at night, where the couple live, and he's in the car, and who you then find out to be Paddy and remember her name, Chiara. They get out the car and just walk away, and it's a wee bit of foreshadowing as well, isn't it? James's favourite entry. What did you make of the very first scene, like when you first watch it?
It's kind of just taken right out of context, isn't it? Like we would normally see a film. It's just kind of you're put into a scenario where you don't know what's happening and things like that, and obviously, like you say, it is kind of foreshadowing what happens in the film and things like that. I liked it just because it adds that mystery and mysterious nature to it all. Like, it's dark, it's at night time, and what's happening here type thing. But I did, mate. I quite liked it for what it was. Do you know what I mean? And obviously leads on to the next scene. Obviously, is a bit different in terms of how vibrant it is and things like that. But how did they get to there? Is what you're wondering.
You get the immediate impression that it's not everything's as it seems.
Oh, aye. definitely. There's a dialogue in that bit. There's hardly any dialogue as well, was there not?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing spoken. So yeah, but we can come back to this scene later on. But then it just takes you straight on to the holiday, doesn't it? They're
Aye.
supposed to be in Italy, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
aye.
I did a wee bit of research, but the holiday scenes were actually filmed in Croatia.
All right.
So it's a fake Italy that they've got. But the very first interaction is quite interesting, isn't it? When he comes over to borrow the deck chair.
Aye.
And he says, what is it? He says, "Is this seat free?" And obviously, you think he's going to just sit down beside them, but he just drags it right across to the other side of the pool.
What? I was going to say,
Yeah,
there was something on. There was like belongings on the actual chair as well, which obviously I hate it on the train, for example. Whenever I'm on a train, there's like a bag on the train or something like that on the seat on the train. And like, well, nobody's sitting here. But sometimes you don't go, well, I don't know if it's a British thing or whatever, but you just go, I'm not going to ask them to move it. I'll just stand rather than interact with people. He comes over, goes, same as sitting there. No, and he, like you say, he drags that sun lounger. He's obviously confident and quite brazen, isn't he? So aye, it's a good scene.
I'd like to play a kind of game, the kind of red flag game. So see at that point, see if someone had done that to you, like just dragged the seat away the way he did, would you have proceeded to talk to them, like, or go out for dinner with them on the holiday? Or would that alone have been enough for you?
No, it would have been enough for me. Like, obviously, first impressions are a thing, aren't they? But you don't know. It's just one interaction. You judge a person by one interaction. I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as a red flag for me. Like,
it sets the scene though, just for his behaviour, doesn't it, throughout the film?
How else? He could have lifted it. He's a strong guy. You see that through the film.
It just looks weird, doesn't it, carrying a chair of that size the way he did? Like, I don't think I've ever seen someone drag a deck chair across a swimming pool before.
I think that's the point, isn't it? No one would. And he does that. Aye. What about you? Is it a red flag for you? What would you do?
I think you're watching or you're rewatching the film, aren't you? You're looking out for all these red flags, aren't you? So the first time I watched it, it's probably not as obvious.
No.
But it was interesting all the same. You then start to get a wee bit of an insight into the family dynamics with Ben, Louise, and Agnes. And something I found quite challenging, there was quite a few things I found quite challenging watching this film, but one of them was the way that the dad was treating the daughter. When he was talking about the kind of teddy bear that she had, which is quite a recurring thing.
Poppy.
Aye, and it's just his tone. It's like, what was it, like the Hoppy's going to get a new room by Christmas time, and he basically just keeps belittling her. I can't say that word. Like she's still quite a young child, and I just feel like the way he was going about it, it just felt like he was being quite cold towards her. And it's like, there's no harm in a child having like a stuffed toy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've still got in the house, like in the loft and things like that, things that I had as a kid, sort of thing. Not by my bedside at all. But it's just one of those things that immediately makes you, or made me, dislike his character. And it's a bit of an interesting film because usually you want to root for them, the couple, but I feel like they made it quite hard to root for them because they weren't the greatest of people. I don't know what your impressions were of them.
Aye, I mean, obviously that relationship was strained. We can learn that anyway throughout the film. In terms of the dynamic between his daughter, I understand where you're coming from. I think his intentions are probably good in terms of obviously trying to get her to be a wee bit more, I don't know, grown up by not having a teddy all the time and not being over reliant on that kind of comfort blanket, and trying to get her to kind of grow up a wee bit, which obviously is hard because, like you, I mean, I had my childhood things when I was wee and things like that, and there's like a time where you just don't remember when that disconnection happened. You know what I mean? Suddenly you were with a teddy, and then you'll know, but you don't know how you didn't have it. Do you know what I mean? Where did that point stop? And I think he was going about it the wrong way in terms of like kind of threatening her a little bit, and he's going to get his own room, blah blah blah. And because I think that transition to Teddy, what do you call it, that kind of naturally happens rather than forcing it.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing that myself with my own kids as well. Like, I think watching that, having the kids myself, I'm like, it was making me feel quite angry just the way he was speaking to her. Do you think a lot of that was? Do you think a lot of his behaviours towards the daughter? Or do you think they were fueled by his wife's behaviours as well?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, that we don't learn that until later on in the film, don't we know? But maybe that anger and frustration's coming out in the wrong person. You know what I mean? And I think because I don't know, the girl's not going to talk back to him, so he's not going to. You can maybe find it easier that way to kind of take his frustrations out on her a little bit.
And you see as you go on that he's quite happy to take his frustrations out on his kid and the wife, but when push comes to shove and he's needed later on in the film, he doesn't stand up, does he?
No. But it's funny how that kind of shift happens, because it seemed as if like he maybe avoided confrontation with the wife, taking out in the kid, because he was going to stand up to Patrick, was he, or Paddy? Because I suppose we'll go into it anyway, but he's obviously doesn't feel as masculine as him, because he's quite, the alpha male, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
He's exerting that, I don't know, suppose the particular boundaries. I think he's like it's his rule, his way or the highway type thing.
Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting also because there's a scene like when they're kind of heading down for the dinner, I think, where they walk past Paddy and Kiara's room and they've got the music on and they're dancing. It's an interesting scene once you know the dynamic between them. Like, was that dancing put on to make them seem fun and in love, or is that just how they naturally behave?
You'd like to think it's probably put on. We don't have the knowledge. We don't see the camera, as from before that. They're walking past the window and they're dancing. So there's a facade of a happy kind of relationship. They're kind of fun loving, all that sort of stuff. And but I think no, what we know, I think it was put on. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they ever had that. I think both Frank and Kira were essentially trapped, but the only way is to kind of, I don't know, I suppose it's to kind of, to live the life is to kind of be with that person, do you know what I mean, and be on their side.
There also could be a wee case of her having a bit of Stockholm syndrome as well.
I did think that as well, mate. I was going to say that. I think Stockholm syndrome's kicked in big time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you remember which scene came first? Was it the dinner scene or was it the moped scene? I'm trying to remember which one came first. Was it moped first?
No, I think it was the dinner. No, it was moped first, wasn't it? Because she leaves Hoppy. No, it was dinner scene, because she leaves Hoppy at the dinner at the table, and that's when she kind of says, "Oh, I left Hoppy," and that's where they have this argument about the bunny. And he goes back. The time the guy comes back, he's offering to go and take them in the moped. So it's the dinner scene first.
So the dinner scene, so it's got a bit of a nod, doesn't it, to the original with the boring Danish couple.
Aye.
I was thinking of that scene, just the guy's reaction when he's asked if he's a scruncher or a folder was a comic gold. And I'm not going to ask you whether you're a scruncher or a folder.
I was fully expecting it, mate. If you weren't asking me, I was asking you. So you know, nobody know.
I was thinking of this earlier. I think I'm probably a scruncher.
Aye, I'm a scruncher as well.
Because you basically fold in scrunch, don't you, in a lot of ways?
Aye. But like Paddy says, you might get some poo in your hands if you fold and then pierce through. Do you know what I mean? So it was a good one.
It's another scene that just kind of shows his kind of lack of boundaries, doesn't it? And just how he's quite happy to make people feel uncomfortable, which is kind of foreshadowing for what goes on.
Aye. He's very loud, and he's the loudest voice in the room type thing. Do you know what I mean? And even if it's in with the couples themselves at the table, or to make it widely known to everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Like it's he just wants to be the loudest person, and he does make people uncomfortable. And you can sense that the Danish couple were going to sit down because we were getting a reservation taken, and then after that it was like, no, we're just checking times, and it's like, he's no wanting to sit beside them, and don't blame him. Do you know what I mean? Like he's like, geez, how many times you come across on a holiday, there's always a loud guy. You know what I mean? It's just there's always one.
I felt a bit sorry for them that they didn't get their dinner.
Well, I'm sure there'll be other. Well, maybe there was only one next one. I don't know, mate. But I don't know.
Well, you find out quite a lot of dialogue at the dinner, so you find out that Louise is she working like PR or something?
Something like that.
She's moved to London for. I think that was like the trade-off for like getting forgiven for her indiscretions. And you find out that, well, Paddy claims that he's a doctor, but he left he's like changed lanes, sort of. He's not like in a hospital anymore. He's doing like something else.
I don't know, a general practitioner. It's just a doctor, like when you go to, you can't make an appointment with the doctors anymore. You've got to do a telephone appointment, so it may suit him.
Yeah. But obviously we find out that's a big scam as well. But you also find out a bit more about Ant, and that they're saying he has it's like support needs essentially, and that he struggles to like socialize with other kids and things like that. But you don't obviously know the full extent of it at that stage. But there's a bit of a positive relationship developing between Ant and Agnes, which is important for later in the film as well. Right, so we got on to the moped scene. So the family are just kind of scooting about fake Italy, and they bump into Paddy and Co. And I actually watched this film with Aileen originally. This was one of the ones that got me because we kind of discussed these at the time. It's like, would you let your kid go on a moped with no helmet with a complete stranger? So that was like one of the kind of first scenes that was like pretty uncomfortable and a bit like crazy in a sense. What did you make of that? What did you make of the family allowing him to do that and him offering to do it in the first place?
Again, it just adds to his kind of friendly nature of he just wants to, maybe no help, but he's quite endearing, isn't he? Again, he's got absolutely every confidence in the world just to approach people. But at this point, they've targeted who they targeted. They fit the bill for them, so they're going to do everything in their power to try and befriend them. I don't know. I mean, the family probably shouldn't have. No, probably they probably shouldn't have let the daughter go on the bike with him. Granted that there's no safety precaution helmet, but I think I don't know. The paints were quite. I don't know if we should or no, but they're getting pressured in. The Agnes, the girl, was like, can I, and no one to let her down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they kind of they're pressured into that situation. They can create that themselves, but obviously, my opinion, I wouldn't have like a child on a bike because you don't know. I say he's the way to go fast and stuff like that, but I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I thought he did go quite fast anyway.
So we're both in agreement that the moped was a weird one. Is just to continue the red flag game at that point, James, would you be continuing association with these people that are wanting to whisk your child away on a moped?
Red flag. I'll get an orange flag.
Right.
I'll
Get the
give it an
VAR on
orange
that one.
I put a VAR check on it. I think so. Certainly raises a lot of questions. But I wouldn't completely rule the guy out. Maybe I'm too I don't know. But I'm not cautious.
It doesn't give you like serial killer vibes. It just makes you think they're a bit too forward, maybe, and just a wee bit reckless.
Reckless and forward. I'll definitely agree with you there, mate. Aye.
Are you someone who does speak to other couples or other people when you're on holiday? Do you tend to strike up conversation, or do you more keep to yourself?
I like to keep to myself, mate. But it's unavoidable. You know what I mean? It's unavoidable, I think, anyway. Because you end up meeting people for Glasgow or somewhere in Scotland and all that sort of stuff. I remember Rangers tapping the holiday, you know what I mean? It'll be like, oh, Rangers, and like, so I think inadvertently I do strike up conversation because, you hear my accent or something like that, and the football team I support. So
movies like this put you off it a wee bit though, don't they?
It does, mate. Put it this way, mate. Whoever I ever meet on holiday, I wouldn't be going back to the house and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but you could end up having drinks with somebody or having a meal, possibly, depending on how big the place is and how well you've got on. Like, there's been a few times over the years where I've made like kind of holiday friends or like couple friends when you're away, sort of thing, So it does happen.
Friends.
Yeah. And I think they again, and Paddy just kind of comes out with it. This is obviously a big part of the scheme, isn't it? That he's inviting them over to the house. And what must happen is they must exchange phone addresses at the very least, because they get the invitation sent to their house in London, don't they? Because you see them going home, and I think the wet weather when they return to London is also quite representative of their mood as a couple as well. Because this is where you find out that Louise has been exchanging pictures with, was it somebody from the kids' school?
I can't remember it was.
I think it was maybe someone from the primary school or whatever. And they get this invitation. And I think Louise is always like the more cautious out of the two when it comes to the couple. And she's not too sure about it at first, but she's not got a lot going on work-wise in London, so they agree, which is good for the movie, that they agree that they go to this house. and it doesn't quite marry up right away, does it? When they go to the house.
Now, I want to touch on before we go back to the house. It's probably important to kind of talk about the boy aunt, because we've not referenced it yet. That Paddy says something that he was born with a small tongue or something like that to try and cover up the fact he doesn't talk.
Right.
Which, you know, for the viewer, for us watching it, and for them as well, would have been a bit odd that the boy's there but doesn't actually speak to Andy. And then they kind of reference the fact that he was born with a small tongue, and he looked up whatever it was called, which kind of gives it more kind of, I don't know, weight, I suppose, because he's a doctor himself, quote unquote. So it kind of answers that question of why does he not talk. So then we kind of really on that.
Did you have suspicions about and his, like, I know you'd seen the original, but
Aye,
did you think there was something initially not quite right about him?
I think it's hard for me not to think of the original here, because also I know what happened. You know what I mean? So I think if I cast my mind back to the original, when I watched it, I found that it was a bit odd. Maybe I probably took it at face value, mate. You know what I mean? That he did have that. I had no idea if this is a thing. I'm guessing it has to be Chuck Maiden, but I took it at face value that he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, mate? What was your reaction to that?
Well, maybe not when they first meet him, but obviously there must be a reason why they've given him like a condition of sorts, and why they keep bringing it up. It's also going to become important later, but the first real sign, isn't it, is the kind of bedtime of the first night, when he comes up to Ben and starts trying to speak to him, but obviously he can't because of the lack of tongue. But that's and he's mouthing, as we said earlier, Scoot McNairy, which you'll never be able to unsee if you watch it again. You doing it right now?
Yep.
But we'll get to that, because there's a few things that happen on the first night that I think are worth referencing. The first one being when they're having dinner, and Louise has already made it clear, because they talk about her being a vegetarian when they're on holiday, don't they? And it's like, do you do it for like health reasons or like kind of ethical reasons? And she says a bit of both, but she still eats fish, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Yeah, she still eats fish as well. Yeah. So he's fully aware. So this is one of not the first, I'd say the moped is the first scene that just creates that discomfort, in that he's made the dinner and he essentially force feeds her the meat, which I know some people who are vegetarians, and I've seen similar reactions, like maybe when they've accidentally eaten meat, if like maybe they got the wrong order at a restaurant or whatever. So that was obviously quite traumatizing for her, and kind of backed up some of her earlier misgivings. What did you make of the scene with the force feeding, essentially?
Aye, I mean, I know mistakes can happen, mate, can't they? Mistakes can happen, but I think the difference is here, mate, is I think that you can see a change in demeanour. I think the environment itself just kind of creates that kind of claustrophobia. You know what I mean? Kind of with the families. Basically, like, in fact, he's in control, I think. So it's either you eat this or you eat nothing. The debate about vegetarians and stuff like that is quite interesting, because I know a couple of vegetarians, mate, but you know, not to the extent that I would have arguments with them. Do you know what I mean? I'm no vegetarian, but when you go out of my way to
Yeah.
to have an argument with them, but again, that's I suppose him exerting his kind of, you know, kind of, I don't know, his power. Where I think mistakes can happen, obviously, knowing we know it was a mistake. I mean, he was basically exerting control and power at that point in time. But again, like you, mate, I think that was the the red flag. It went to VAR check again, mate, and I think it's went to a straight red.
Is this for you? Is this for you to start to want to leave when that happened, or if that happened to someone with you?
Nah, I don't think I want to leave because again, from their point of view, also we watched it through again. We know what happens and things like that. So it's for being a situation. I don't think if I was, I think force fed's a bit much, right? But it happened
Not
to
far
me.
off.
Aye, but I go right. I don't think I would want to leave. No yet. But going back
But
to the
you'd be
red flag.
anticipating having a.
What's that?
Yeah, you'd be anticipating having an awkward conversation, though, wouldn't you? With
Aye, of course.
with your family.
Aye, and I think you would. Not just awkward conversation with Paddy as well, mate. You know what I mean? Like it's it's your values. What do you hold the most your values in terms of your vegetarian and all that, and over having a good time with the family? I don't know, mate. It's a lot of dilemmas here.
But she essentially eats it and then spits it into the bin, which is what happens there. But luckily, Paddy didn't see that. The other thing I wanted to mention from the first night was the sleeping arrangements. So Louise isn't happy with the cleanliness of the beds, saying that they hadn't been washed, and it makes you think. Do you think they maybe haven't been washed since the last victims were there? Is that? I just thought of that there, to be honest.
Possibly, mate. Possibly.
Which is a new level of disturbing if he's just had multiple couples staying over in the same room, same bed without any change of sheets.
Aye. I mean, possibly, mate. Oh, it must be. Who else do they have? Who else do they have over? You know what I mean? They don't. So it must be for the stench of other people, I suppose.
Yeah, there's quite a big theme about food in this film because their accomplice guy, he makes reference to why do they always play with their food. So like all these mind games and red flags, they're not actually necessary for what they want to achieve, is it? They just want to get the adults out of the way and keep the children essentially. But there is a kind of big theme about food, isn't there, throughout the film? Playing with your food.
Aye, because like you say, I mean, that's what they're doing. Essentially, they're playing with their food, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, so back to the sleeping arrangements. So they've organised for Agnes to share this dingy wee room with Aunt, which is inappropriate for a lot of reasons. There's obviously the fact that the young child's not sleeping in the same room in a stranger's house as the parents, but then to also put two young children of opposite genders in the same room as well when they don't know each other.
Yep.
For me, that's the biggest of the red flags so far was, and also the fact that the parents let it happen. Like, surely that's the point where you just go, no, they're staying with us. And if they're not staying with us, we're leaving.
Well, about to say that, mate. I mean, that's obviously if we're talking about red flags, mate, that's it. I mean, the parents should just say, no, they'll sleep in between us, whatever. That's the end of the conversation. But there's no need to, there's no discussion here. You know what I mean? You're not going to stay in the room with a boy away from us in a stranger's house. They're staying here with us. The conversation has to end there. I don't know. I don't know why they let it happen.
Obviously, as much as we'll get to, as much as I enjoy this film on the whole, there is a lot. You do need to, I suppose, suspend your disbelief a lot for some of the choices that the parents made. Obviously, there is that whole thing that you spoke about earlier, how you don't want to cause a fuss and you don't want to like say no to people or to get into confrontations, but it's a wee bit too far, I would say.
Aye, I would agree with you.
And there's also, I don't think it's the same night, it might be a different night, but because once Agnes is sleeping in that room, you hear Aunt making like noises, and then they're like, "We're not going to check on him," and they basically time it to perfection when he stops crying. And again, that's just kind of raising yet more red flags, isn't it, about the way they treat Aunt and how they parent him essentially.
Aye. We see, we can see that throughout the film from here on in, I think, in terms of how they treat him. But I don't know if you want to touch on this scene, mate, but I think it's right about the same time where they are having a conversation about, obviously what happened and things like that, why they had to get away and all that sort of stuff. But the camera pans round to the door and you see Paddy at the glass stained window.
That's right, yeah.
Listening to the conversation. And see, you could easily miss that. Mm-hmm. Because you get sitting into the background and we are obviously listening to the conversation they're having between Louise and what's his name? Ben,
yeah.
So you're trying to listen to their dynamic, but you could easily miss that, and Paddy's there listening to, and you just see his shadow, and then he walks away, which is obviously quite kind of chilling in itself.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth just talking about all the other kind of awkward situations just in this one section. So there's also the scene when they're out in the kind of fields and they're with the nature, and I think Agnes is wanting a shot in the swing, but Aunt's just kind of in the way. And this is probably the first time you see Paddy's mask slip completely with Aunt. And he basically says, like, you'll see the back of my hand sort of idea. And Louise is pretty shocked about how he's treating the boy, but that's just you see that more as the film goes on as well. But it's quite a tough watch, seeing those scenes, because there's also the one that's quite a bit later in the film, which is the one when they're doing the Cotton Eye Joe dance.
That's right, aye. Nah, he does let his mask slip in this point because he just basically manhandles him with the vibe, but he grabs him and like it's that's no what a feather would do. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't do that, and they do make reference to that to say he's just a kid. Do you know what I mean? Just leave him alone, type thing. And I think for me, obviously you've spoken about other red flags in it, but I think that's the one I go, right, hold on a minute, this guy's out of order here. I think this guy's no what he seems to be. Everything else is acting up now, and he's obviously showing a kind of violent, aggressive nature as well, which also foreshadowed, because we hadn't really seen that side of him yet, because we see the kind of the fun-loving, the jokey guy, and we've kind of transitioned into the kind of the aggressor, I think.
He does look back and forward, though. That's the thing. Like, he'll do that, and then the next scene, he'll be back to laughing and joking, which is quite unnerving.
It just goes back to his performance, mate. James McAvoy, he can do that. It was a tough watch, mate. That, and the Cotton Eye Joe scene was tough as well to watch, because he just wanted that. Just stop it now, man. Do you know what I mean? He's like, and to be fair, the parents did want to stop it, as did the little girl, Agnes. But he wasn't having it, mate. He was he wanted it down to perfection. It was hard to watch that.
I think that was probably the ultimate breaking point for the other family with them, like the way they
Aye.
treated Aunt that time round. But there was also the scene when they go kind of diving into the water, and Kiara's got all the like bruises, which begins to show that she's also a victim. What I was looking for at the start, though, I don't think she had the bruises. You know, the swimming scene, the very first scene,
Uh-huh.
because she was like across the pool
Yeah.
when he was taking the chairs, and I couldn't see all the bruising then because I was actually looking out for it to see if it was there the whole time, whether it was a bit of an Easter egg, but I don't think it was.
I didn't notice that myself, mate.
Yeah,
But it's obviously happened in recent times, isn't it?
yeah, and it's like she obviously knew that the bruises were there before what happened. It's like, did she want them to see that? Like, was this all part of the plan that they would see what had happened to her too?
Aye. But I think that was, cause I think before the pool bit, the swimming bit off the cliff, there was a moment between Paddy and Louise as well, that like was a sore neck, and it's almost as if he was trying to seduce her a little bit as well by talking to her and all that, and the way he put his hands on her neck and stuff. And he goes, "The only way that you can fix this is through cold water therapy," and that's where they jump into the water, and we see the
There's
bruises.
another bit of foreshadowing as well, because Anne clearly can't swim, and also the water comes up again later. But they're essentially saying that the only way for him to learn to swim is to just struggle. But he looks like he is literally about to drown. I'm assuming with the way they treat Anne that they only ever want like one child at a time, and the plan was obviously to replace Aunt with Agnes. Because they referenced that they always wanted a girl, didn't they, as well, at one point?
Yeah. I mean, his time was up anyway. Because like I said, it's foreshadowing. It was what happened to him. But again, it's like, she said, "Oh, can I swim?" He said, "No, it's okay. Paddy's got him." So he lets him struggle. It's like, it's cruel. He's being cruel. Do you know what I mean? I thought this myself, mate. I was like, I don't remember. I never took swimming lessons or anything, right? I just swam. But I remember I was going to the deep end with my pals, and it's like, oh, I need to try and swim here, and probably did struggle to a certain degree, do you know what I mean? But not to the extent I would be out in the middle of the ocean or whatever, and I've got nothing to climb onto, or have a float or something, do you know what I mean? But it's just cruel, mate. Cruel what they did to him, which I was obviously, you can see that, that frustration's coming out later on in the film.
Yeah. So they go back, and they go out for, again, the food coming up again. They go out for a meal, and this was like the third major like parenting red flag for me, was the babysitter, who I think they say used to be a teacher in his home country. But this just like totally random guy comes over, and this is where you have to suspend the disbelief again. They agree to let this man babysit their daughter while they go out for dinner. It's becoming challenging at that point, isn't it?
You begin to question the parent abilities, don't you?
I was questioning it way back at the moped, I must admit.
Aye, and rightly so, mate. But it's okay. He's got his what do you call it? His what do you call it again? PVG. He's got his PVG. It's fine.
Yeah. So this seems obviously important for two reasons, because they go out for dinner, and then Paddy kind of opens up and gets quite emotional, doesn't he, about his past with Kiara, and he mentions about how long they've been together, and Louise makes a kind of throwaway comment about how old would she have been, which is obviously something that comes up later as well. Quite a lot of foreshadowing in this film, kind of right up your street, I think. But also there's the scene where they're become intimate in the restaurant. And did you fall for that? Did you think that was happening, or did you think it was like a fake out? Or were you like them? Were you kind of in doubt
I
on the way
was
through it?
on the fence, mate, because you don't, he's very unpredictable, as Paddy, and you don't know sometimes if he's serious or if he's joking. But I mean, obviously he was joking, but it was questions their kind of sanity, doesn't it, as well, in a restaurant as well. It's like, would they have been that, brazen about it all?
Because they were the only people in the restaurant apart from their friend who comes back later in the film as well.
Aye. I wondered if you would skip over that part, but did you fall for it?
I think when I first watched it, I did think that they were actually doing it at a point, but I think that's on purpose, and I think that's what this film does quite well. It puts you into the shoes of Ben and Louise, doesn't it? And you're literally feeling their discomfort while you're watching it.
Aye. I think it's you're kind of put in their shoes, how uncomfortable we feel about it in certain ways, but again, on the flip side of that, though, not as uncomfortable as they think, because they're openly letting their daughter, be a stranger. Yeah. They're openly, letting their daughter sleep in another room without them. So it's all uncomfortable for us, because we're right. We should be right to be questioning that, but they don't seem to. They have they question it, they don't really act on it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, mate. That's all.
They don't seem that worried about her when they're actually out at the dinner.
No.
So what's happening when they're out is also important, because that's when Anne shows Agnes the collection of watches.
Yes.
I'm sure. Do you not see Paddy putting watches on earlier as well?
We got seen my Paddy's putting a watch away, putting it on. I can't remember which one it is. And you can see the collection of watches, which tells you how many victims have been. Obviously, we don't know that now, but we know that after the fact.
Yeah, and Ant's obviously trying to show the message on it, just like he tries to write a message to Agnes later on. But I think what makes this work is the language barrier, because he's of course Danish. So the fact that Agnes can't read the messages or the inscription, that makes sense because of that.
Aye, I know, and well, the fact they can't speak either, do you know what I mean? Which makes it even obviously the title of the film. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that obviously the scripture is undecipherable. Indecipherable.
I'd already watched this film at least once before we decided to do this. So I can't remember what I thought was happening back then, but obviously you realise that something's not quite right with Ant, and obviously there's something not right with the couple as well. I think it's that evening where the real, surprisingly it's the tipping point, but the real tipping point is when they can't find Agnes in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And then they find her in bed with the other family. And at that point, it's a case of, right, we're leaving, go. And they just kind of sneak out in the middle of the night. Chiara and Paddy tried to back this up by saying they heard her crying. They had tried for a daughter themselves and they'd lost the daughter. And that's obviously what leads to them kind of sort of forgiving them and going back with them again. But yeah, you don't really feel sympathy for Ben and Louise at this point, do you? Because they've had even up to this point, they've had so many opportunities to leave or to speak up for themselves.
Well, exactly, mate. They've had a plethora of opportunities, mate, and it's not happening. It's no for them. It's they've let it all slip, and they're just kind of go, we'll let this one go, and then it gets worse, and then obviously, like you say here, this is the tipping point. This is the bit where they can't go anymore. And imagine the shock as well. You see your daughter in with another family that way. And rightly so, we pack up and we go to leave, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the fact they don't say anything, I think tells us as well, don't tell them they're leaving, just go. Because I think deep down they know they'll try and convince them to stay. Because he's that like I probably say this word, he's endearing, friendly to a point of control, you know what I mean? But I think what happens here that's different. Agnes forgets the Hoppy again.
Yeah. And obviously why that was referenced earlier in the film as well.
I think as well, mate. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing they know the importance of that teddy bear because it happened in the film earlier on and they had to go back and get it. So if they had Hoppy, they know that a girl can't leave without that teddy and they have to go back. So it's like a kind of instrument of control or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And they go back, and obviously that's where they offered Paddy's a bit upset the fact that they were going to leave without saying goodbye. And then it's like, and at this point in time, he's doing like chicken dances, isn't he? He's like, oh, chickens, and it's like, he's gutted because you're going to go without seeing the chickens. But was he referring to? He was calling them chicken for not staying and tried to find out all this information he's trying to give them. Because I don't remember seeing any chickens. I don't. Do you see the chickens? Do we see the chickens?
I don't think so. Well, do you not see them like when they go down to the wee house where they find out the?
Can't remember.
Can't
remember. I'm guessing there must be. You wouldn't have said that for nothing. So obviously this is where we kind of the next day is where we get the real kind of revelation, mate, don't we?
Yeah, we haven't really mentioned, which is another reason why leaving, not arguing against where she sleeps and leaving her with a babysitter is important, is she's not just attached to this teddy, she's also got really bad anxiety and uses like anxiety like apps to help her with her anxiety. So that makes what they've allowed to happen to her even worse, I would say. Think how anxious she must be at this house, sleeping in that room, being left by herself, all these kind of things.
Well, absolutely heightens it. But then I feel that kind of leads to obviously parents again, mate. If you know your kid's that anxious and how bad she is, then surely you go, no, she has this, she's got anxiety. She can't be alone. Never mind her teddy bear. Do you know what I mean? We want to look after her. So the fact you mentioned that just again highlights the fact that the parents are somewhat not fit for purpose.
Yeah. So again, I can't quite understand why they stay. Like maybe they feel a wee bit sorry for Kiara and Paddy when they hear about their attempts at having children, or maybe it's just that British awkwardness and not wanting to then leave again, sort of thing. Or maybe it's also a wee bit of they care for Ant and want to make sure he's okay. It could also be factoring into it, because that's one of the reasons why they're maybe quite reluctant to leave. But there's obviously a lot of that going on, which then culminates in the scene we spoke about earlier with the, what do you call the song? Cotton Eye Joe.
Aye.
And they have their first kind of family meeting, don't they, at that point, like behind a bush, where they start, like Louise is basically saying, like, right, we need to go again, like the way he's speaking to that child, I can't stand it, that kind of thing. But before that can take place, and I keep forgetting her name. Agnes. They start playing, like, essentially playing a wee bit of the soccer, or is it a basketball? It's some kind of ball.
I think it's basketball. I don't know.
Yeah, and on purpose, the ball ends up flying away to this kind of outhouse. Is that where you see the chickens?
It might be. I can't remember now.
I'm pretty sure we did see chickens at that point. And he essentially goes into this kind of outhouse, and then there's like a kind of trap door, essentially, isn't there? And then they go downstairs into the cellar, and you immediately see like loads of people's belongings, don't you?
Aye.
You like shoes and jackets and watches, of course, and different things. And then you didn't really need. I don't think the audience really need much sort of an explain. I don't think you needed to see the photo album really to fully get it. I feel like when I seen all these things, like multiples of the same item, I was like, yeah, this has definitely happened before.
Yeah, but the photo album wasn't for us, mate. It was for Agnes, and for Ant to communicate to her
Aye.
what he's been through and what the other ones have been through, and what's going to come next. You know what I mean?
So it obviously shows that
timeline.
So it obviously shows that they've done this to multiple families. You see the picture of Ant with his original family, and then there's also a blank photo, isn't there, where Agnes's family, because they took a photo together previously to that, like where that's going to go. And then what this actually reminded me of, and it's maybe a reason why I was kind of attracted to this film in the first place, it reminds me quite a lot of the revelation point in Get Out.
That's right. Aye.
When he finds out that she's had lots of previous boyfriends that she's brought to the house as well, and it's that kind of claustrophobic, small cast, remote location. Does actually have quite a lot of similarities to Get Out when you think about it.
Yeah.
In terms of the I'm struggling with words today. Revelation. So then Agnes tries to obviously get this message across to her parents. So I can't remember if it's her or her mum. I think it's the mum that comes up with the kind of cover story of it being her first period. Is that right?
Say that again, sorry?
Or I'm trying to remember whether it was the mum or Agnes who came up with the cover story of it being her first period.
It would have been mum, surely.
Yeah, it might have been. I think Agnes wanted to talk to the mum, and that's what the mum said. So then they obviously go into the house. She shows the photo album, and they work out what's going on. And at that point, because does Kiara not come up to the door at that point and ask like how they're getting on?
That's right. I can't remember. Aye.
Yeah. So at that point, obviously, although they should have obviously realized this long ago, it becomes time for them to leave. So they obviously gather all their stuff and make their way towards the car, but Paddy was obviously one step ahead, wasn't he, when their tire was flat, and I think they also had the bunny raised its head again.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's used as a, I don't know, collateral or weapon sort of stuff, isn't it? Because it knows they can't go about the Hoppy.
So the Hoppy's up in like the kind of drains, isn't it, at the top of the house?
Yeah.
And then Paddy gets the ladder and bends to go up it, but he's obviously continuing these games with Paddy, and that he's shaking the ladder and making it as difficult as possible for him. But then they do eventually, because Paddy fixes the tire as well, doesn't he?
Aye, he does that. He does. Aye. Also, Paddy did the tire so he can go, and then again he's kind of the evil and then the nice guy fixing tires and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost as if he's killing them with kindness type thing. Yeah,
and then when they eventually get away, they're driving away. But then this is one of the most like haunting bits of the film. Probably you just see Paddy thrown into the water, which I'm sure he made reference to it that that's also where the parents drowned as well.
Aye.
So that's, and it makes you think: is there Bay Harbour Butcher levels of bodies in that water? Do you think?
Could be, mate. It's
But
points in that direction.
Yeah, and they decide. Obviously, Agnes kind of leading the charge with that. They decide to save him, but then they get captured and put into sort of kind of garage, kind of workshop area, isn't it?
Right. See, before we continue on, I want to kind of bring up the scene where, obviously they're in the car together and they sing the song, the one we did at the start, Eternal Flame.
Yeah.
And then he takes them out to the kind of the countryside. Well, not so much countryside, it's where they live anyway, but and they're screaming out, letting out their frustrations, like that, and it's kind of hinting to the fact that, doesn't even matter how much you scream, no one's going to hear you. Which, in a sense, is foreshadowing itself. Just want to bring that up.
Point. Yeah. So at this point, Paddy and Kiara are armed, and I don't know what you thought about this, but see, when they're trying to essentially get money out of them, didn't really strike me as something they'd be interested in money, because obviously they live quite kind of low-key lifestyles. But is that how they keep putting food on the table and keeping the house running, essentially, when they probably don't work? Aye.
Because it's a decent wee gaff they've got into out in the sticks.
Suppose they must go out for these dinners and drinks, and I suppose it probably is. Yeah, that's true. It's probably how they just fund their lifestyle and how they get to other countries to meet people to bring them back. That's probably why they're looking for the money.
So they're saying that, but we know it's a bit different because we know the photo album. So do they, though. They know that as well. Do you know what I mean? So, so they got the money and their belongings, etc. Then there's really no use for them. Yeah. So they know that they're going to be killed, essentially.
And throughout the last kind of half hour of the film, it's really Louise leading the charge, isn't it?
Aye.
In terms of
comes to the front.
In terms of injuring Paddy, but also she takes out Mike, the guy from the restaurant. She eventually takes him out as well, and it's quite a intense scene when she takes Mike out, isn't it?
Aye, I think the full thing was quite intense, mate, because you just didn't know what was going to happen in terms of who was going to get away, and also it was again shifting between different rooms and all that sort of stuff as well, and outside and inside, and it kind of it was good camera work as well, I thought. But it was good, mate. Again, it left you your seat, mate, about what's going to happen, who's going to make it, who was going to make it.
Yeah, but it also keeps emphasizing the fact that Ben isn't very good in these situations. Like he's not big on like normal confrontation in terms of conversation, but he's also not that good in the kind of emergency situation either.
Nah, it's a bit of a wet blanket. You know what I mean?
Because he would have died essentially if Louise hadn't saved him.
Yeah. So the protagonist was kind of the three protagonists, we call them. Louise is the one who saved the day, and she came into the film being essentially the bad person, but again proved herself when push came to shove. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because even the daughter that pulls a Dexter Morgan near the end.
I know.
Saved the day. That was quite a surprise. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of spraying in the eyes. There's a lot of gunshots. There's fire thrown. There's lots going on in the last half hour. But Louise also sprays Paddy in the eyes, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
Because when I was reading the kind of blooper section, like the injury that he gets just totally vanishes. It's like one of the kind of like bloopers in the film, and that the injury he had to his eyes just kind of disappeared after a point.
Aye.
Just kind of faded away. So they get out. They think they're kind of home and clear, but then Paddy emerges with, because does Kiara not die falling out she falls off the roof, doesn't she?
Aye, she falls off the roof. Aye, she's just
But not before. This was important. When we go back to the scene when the family were held captive, she reveals that she was Paddy's first abductee, essentially, and that he, like, I don't know if they're married, but they're also together. It makes you thinking. There's a few theories around this that I've seen, whether that is true or whether that's just another kind of attempt at like coercion. Do you believe that she was someone who was abducted, or do you think that's just what she's saying just to try and get into the family's heads?
Well, when I watched it, I first thought, I don't know if I believe you here, because the family's created, both of them have created the I don't know, the narrative of, being, a lot of this deception involved here. So we don't know if it's true or not, because she wants to gain the family's trust and all sorts of things, and she's just saying that to then surprise them and try and take them out. Although the bruises, on the other hand, tell you, well, is that just victim of domestic violence, or is that, again, is she Aunt only years before him, sorry, and she's still paying the price for it. So we don't really know, mate, and it doesn't really explain to you what it is. I guess it's a question that, why we're discussing this now, if we think it is or not. Again, I don't know, because you can't trust either of them. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I think it fits in narrative better if she was, because definitely. it adds like an extra layer of like disturbance to the whole thing, and also it means the foreshadowing earlier about like what age would she have been would then make sense as well.
Of course, I think I do believe that anyway. Do you know what I mean? But we just don't know, and I think it.
Yeah.
Again, we're debating this, so it's good conversation.
Yeah. So Paddy's got Agnes at gunpoint, and then I said she did a Dexter Morgan, so she injects him with the ketamine, and they're just about to leave him where he is, which Anne obviously doesn't agree with, and it's another difficult scene to watch where he's obviously bashing Paddy with the rock, but not to condone violence, but you can't really blame Ant for what happened to him, his family, and everything else.
Yeah, so he's basically with his family at murdered, didn't he? He's his tongue cut off. He's had to suffer endless abuse, physical, verbal. Again, there's a tipping point for every person, and I think all those years of frustration. We don't really know how long it was between his parents dying and to current events. We don't know how long that's been, but
he didn't look a lot younger in the photo album, did he?
No, I know.
Really?
But I guess however long that we think it is, it's probably a lifetime for him, because he's had to suffer that day in, day out, you know what I mean? So, and not just that, the psychological part of it, of, having to go through the horror of his family dying and the actual tongue cutting. So I don't blame him, mate, no. That's just, frustration and anger and all sorts coming out in a different way. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we could let him live, because the cycle will just continue.
Yeah. You sound like someone else.
Sorry?
Does he fit the code?
He fits the code, mate. He fits the code. Which I'll go back to what I remember, mate, to the original 2022 version. I'm sure the family die. I think they all die. So
I did read up on what happened at the end. Does Agnes not get taken in by the family?
I can't remember their names, mate. If it's the same names or no. But when I watched it, I've seen this before, but it's also a different version of it. But I'm pretty sure they all die. I don't know their names, mate, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty sure Patrick is the same.
Do you think I should make an effort to watch the original?
Go for it, mate. It's dark, mate. I remember that, and it's no the happy ending that Hollywood's giving you here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
will give it a watch as well, mate.
This movie basically ends the same way the same way the one started, because you get Ant in the back of the car after what he just did, and the car's kind of driving away, and that's where the movie ends. But it would have been quite interesting to see. I don't think this film will get a sequel, for example, but it would be quite interesting to see how that impacts all of their lives moving forward. Quite a traumatic experience.
That's counselling and all sorts. I mean, and it'd be a considerable amount of paperwork for the Hot Fuzz folk.
Imagine a sequel where Ben and Louise do the same to another couple they meet in holiday.
Aye. Jesus.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what happened to them. Just before we start to wrap up, I was wondering if did you have any trivia that's not came up so far?
I had some, mate. Let me go and grab it now.
Close your eyes when you're done.
So James McAvoy wanted to play the role. He personally pushed it, apparently. He wanted to play someone who was deeply unsettling, but outwardly charming. So we kind of got that at the end. He was charming. It was like a good look for it, actually. Charming and deeply unsettling. It says as well, the kind of the theme of the film, it plays on a real world phenomenon of people ignoring red flags to avoid confrontation, which I suppose is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought I had more, mate, but I've lost the page now, so I do apologise.
I've got a few bits and pieces here. This was another one. You got one, sorry?
So I've not done my homework this week.
For the blooper section again, apparently the ladder changed. The scene with the ladder when they're getting the doll out of the pipe. It says the ladder changed from wooden in one shot to aluminium in another. So that's just something to look out for if you watch it again. What else? The director of this film also directed The Woman in Black, the one with Daniel Radcliffe. I don't know if you've seen that. I've seen that at the cinema back originally. McAvoy didn't watch the original version until after filming this performance, but he said he was impressed with the movie. This movie was impacted heavily by the writer and actor strikes around that time.
Okay.
Was something that it said. Just try to see if there's any more that I've not mentioned. So the idea was they did make this a more optimistic ending compared to the original because it was more like kind of UK and American culture. where they would kind of fight back, whereas the Danish were more just reluctant to fight back, essentially, in the original. I've not seen it, but that's what I've heard happened. Also said someone worked out that Kiara would have been 14 years old, roughly, at the time of the relationship starting. And the only other thing I noted down was a line I really liked. It reminded me of the film The Strangers. Was the line, because you let us? Like, why are you doing this to us? Because you let us. Which reminded me of was it because you answered or because you were home or something in
Something like that.
The Strangers? Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be right. So I thought that had links to that, and obviously I mentioned the links to Get Out earlier, which wasn't something I planned to say, but when I was talking about it, it just kind of came into my head. So yeah, so that's the end of the review of Speak No Evil. So just before we do, actually, I won't reveal the Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb scores yet. I'll wait until we've given our own ratings. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first, mate. I'm going to
Okay.
give this 8 out of 10.
I'm actually pleased because whenever like I pick a film, you obviously always hope that you and Paul will enjoy it. So I'm pleased to hear that you enjoyed it.
That was good, mate. I say it was. Cheese McAvoy also played a really good part in it, mate. Do you know what I mean? He was that bit of trivia mentioned charming. That's the word that I was probably looking for earlier on. Said look endearing. He was charming. He was. It was just crazy how he could just switch and kind of fly off the handle quite quickly as well. Kind of his mental state kind of mimicking that. I think all the actors played really good in it. In terms of the ability, obviously Ant was his actual physical acting, and he had no words, obviously, but what he brought to the table in terms of those scenes where he was trying to explain, about the family, and trying to tell us as well at the same time, even though we kind of knew anyway, was good. One thing did annoy me though, Poppy. Poppy had to go, mate. Nah, I'm joking. I say, mate, it was that the setting as well, mate, was good. For it to work, I mean, out in the sticks and things like that, and 8 out of 10. It was. Let's say I'll give it another watch, mate. I like you. I'll go back and watch the original as well, mate, because I enjoyed it at the time.
What did you think was better out of this than the original?
Well, I've seen it for ages, mate, so I need to go back and watch it. I do remember coming back. I watched the original, mate. I did enjoy it. It was good. But I never knew this existed, this remake. So
Yeah,
let's say when I watched it, I'm going, I've seen something similar to this before, and then
yeah.
it turns out it was a remake. So it kind of made sense, obviously, to me.
Mhm.
But I'll go back and watch the original again. I'll probably be in a better way to compare it, mate.
Maybe we could both watch it at some point and then do a part 2 to this.
Could do.
Um,
Do it. See, before you tell me your review, mate.
Yeah.
Go and look at the chat I put in.
What chat? WhatsApp or
No, the chat on StreamYard.
chat on here?
There you go, mate. So that's what makes sense. I'm just watching, but
yeah,
you can tell me your review.
There's a wee, just while I'm giving my review, there's just a wee. Don't know if that works. Did that work? Technical difficulties. I was trying to show a poll, but it didn't work. Oh well. Right. My scores. My score. I'll probably go 8 as well.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot that kind of brought it down. I think it was more that you didn't really like the main couple. They weren't very like nice people. You didn't really root for them. But again, like a lot of the complaints we make about films, it was probably on purpose because they were written in that way. But also just the sheer amount of times when they should have pulled the plug on this strip and bailed and they didn't do it. I think that also had an impact for me as well. But I loved the uncomfortable nature. I loved all the foreshadowing. I loved the setting, as you said. McAvoy's performance was great, as were some of the others as well. It was good, and I just came across it randomly on Now TV, and I generally do think psychological horror, like psychological thrillers, horrors, are probably my favorite genre because I obviously really like things like Get Out and things like that as well. So I enjoy things that have this kind of vibe.
Aye. Foreshadowing obviously is something I didn't touch on in terms of, but it was all there for us to see really. So it was good.
Yep. Just before we sign off, I can't remember if it's you or Paul to pick next. Is it you or Paul?
It's me.
It's you. Have you got something?
Yeah, because Paul picked Cabin in the Woods.
That's right. Do you have something for next time?
I do, mate. Aye. So the film we're going to review next is a film called Harold and Kumar Get the Munchies.
That's a totally different vibe to this one.
Very much so.
Okay.
You seen it?
I can't say I have, no.
Okay.
Well, Seismic Cinema's wide product portfolio continues on.
Yep. So there you go.
Okay, well, thank you, James. We'll look into that. So just a reminder where you can find us on various different social media platforms. So give Seismic Cinema a follow. You can also listen to us or watch us on various different platforms, including YouTube, which is our main home. We would love if you could subscribe to this to the channel, help us on our route to 275,000, and also give us a like and a comment as well. Just a wee shout out to the Podpack Collective, give them a wee look up as well. And I'm Colin. I have normally not seen it. Oh, we should have sung the outro, but never mind. I've not seen it. Paul, who is not with us today, Paul has usually watched it in the wrong order. So Paul probably watched the original first. No, Paul probably watched this first and then watched the original.
Yeah, we got there on the end. And I'm James, and I probably written an essay on it. Thank you for watching and listening.
Up in double time, James analyzing every line. Paul's out of sync, but they don't care. Three minds tangled, but they're always there.